Bradshaw. Yes. No. The original TB12. Terry Bradshaw in 1979, who actually threw as many interceptions as he did touchdowns in his brilliant career, is the answer to the question. All right, well, let's get back to one of the biggest questions of this NFL offseason, and it is the future of Dak Prescott in Dallas. So far, he still does not have a long-term deal with the Cowboys, although according to Sports Business Journal, he did just sign a multi-year deal with brewing giant Anheuser-Busch. So he has that going for him right now. But let's bring the group back in here. And Shefty, it was about a month ago, although it feels like 20 years ago, that you said on this show, this is going to be the biggest story of the NFL offseason. It has since been surpassed and lapped. But where do we stand right now as far as Dak is concerned?
Listen, it's in the same spot it's always been. I think both sides would like to try to work out a deal. The interesting part would be, would the Dallas Cowboys be tempted by any other option that would save that team money and lock in a quarterback that they believed in? Again, I think in a perfect world, they re-sign Dak, Dak re-signs there, no questions asked. But even in a hypothetical, right, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, would you make a run at Deshaun Watson, who is already under contract long-term? Would you entertain offers for Matthew Stafford, who you could have the next 2 years for $43 million, whereas Dak's franchise tag for just this year alone is over $37 million? There's a financial component to this. Now, I don't think they'll do that. I think they're going to want to keep signing Dak, but at some point in time, if they struggle to do that and they struggle to do a long-term deal, would they, and I'm just asking, would they entertain the notion that maybe we should consider trading for another quarterback?
It is obviously something that has crossed a lot of people's minds. If only I could remember where Matthew Stafford is from. Oh, that's right. He's from Dallas. Dominique Foxworth, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Dak, I want to get the hell out of there. And it's not to suggest that the Cowboys situation is like awful like it feels like in Houston. There's some good things there, so not just go anywhere. But if I feel so disrespected on behalf of Dak Prescott. He's been tremendous for this team, had big moments in the playoffs, carried them throughout the regular season, and they seem to give him less and less support the longer he's there. The way the defense has played in the last couple seasons has been terrible. And I think that Dak's career could be much greater than it is now if he goes to another situation where they have good weapons and a better defense. Denver comes to mind. Washington comes to mind as another place he can dominate that division from Washington rather than Dallas. So I think that Dak, it's up to Dak. If he wants to come back and they give him what he wants, then Dallas should absolutely jump on it. But I think that you're right. Bringing up Matthew Stafford, I think Dallas would consider doing something like that, and it may turn out to be what's best for both parties.
To be clear, it would be insane for the Cowboys to not tag him and thus let him walk away for free as a free agent. So the scenario we're talking about here would be if they franchise tag him and then trade him, which has happened 17 times before in the NFL with players, only once with a quarterback, and that was Matt Castle. Shefty.
Well, but hold on, Greeny. To do that, they need a certain level of cooperation from Dak Prescott. Right. He's got to come in and sign that franchise tag knowing he's being traded somewhere. So if they had a deal worked out with somebody to a place that he didn't want to go, what would be his incentive to go sign that? So
no, that's the point. This would have to be voluntary on everybody's part. He would be involved in all of this, right? For this to happen, we've seen it happen before. 17 times players have been traded on the tag. 15 of those went on to sign long-term deals with the team they were traded to. So there's sort of it's like the sign and trade like they do in the NBA. I mean, this is all becoming kind of like NBA wheeling and dealing, Shefty.
This is really an unofficial no-trade tag that Dak Prescott has by getting the franchise tag. If indeed the Cowboys do put that tag on him again, that would be his unofficial no-trade clause. They could not just trade him without his consent.
D-Wood, what do you think?
Green, I think guys at a crossroads this year. I do. I think if I'm Dak, I'm looking at the situation. I'm thinking this roster needs some turnover. You know, all the guys that we've been talking about over the years when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, they're all injured, they're getting older, and Dak looking at the coaching staff. You know, Mike McCarthy hiring his boy Mike Nolan, that was a disaster. Got rid of him. Do you have faith in the coaching staff? So if I'm Dak, I'm looking at my situation like, do I really want to waste my prime years with an organization that seems like it doesn't have it figured out right now? And like Adam and like Shefty said, if they tag him, he doesn't have to sign the tag.
Right, but if they don't tag him, then they run the risk of losing him for nothing, which seems like it's the only thing in this that seems completely impossible is that they would allow that to happen. So this continues to be, look, Shefty described it earlier, it's a quarterback carousel, the likes of which we've literally never seen. Do not omit the name Dak Prescott from it. Meanwhile, let's get to the one game that still was on with Pat McAfee addressing the speculation that he may want out. Once again, this is what he said.
I don't think that there's any reason why I wouldn't be back. But look, I think there's not many absolutes, as you guys know, in this business. To make an absolute statement about something is not an absolute. I didn't do it. Naturally, there's times where you let your mind go to maybe, well, I'm going to be a Packer for life. When they drafted Jordan, it was more just like the reality kicking in going, hey, that's actually never the case. I get it. Some people are like, well, you just threw 48 touchdowns and probably going to win MVP. Yeah, I understand that. But again, there's no absolutes in this business.
So, Shefty, let's get to that here. And D-Wood, we've not had a chance to hear your take on this all week, so I'm coming to you in a minute. But, Shefty, when I had Rob Domofsky on, he told me that normally, Rob Domofsky is our Packers Nation reporter, he told me that normally, after the season, Aaron Rodgers would meet with the coach, and then he would go back to California. This week, he's sticking around so he can meet with the team president and meet with the general manager before he goes, sort of setting the stage for whatever would come next. So how do we expect this thing with Aaron Rodgers to go forward from here?
Well, he minimized it the next day, and I think really what Aaron Rodgers probably needs to do is hear from all these people, hear what they have to say, process what they have to say, and then decide what he wants to do. And again, he's saying he minimized it the next day with Pat McAfee. I think he walked it back some. There was obviously a question that he raised on Sunday, which led to us, I don't think, being out of line at all, raising the questions that we did on Monday about his future. And it still comes back to, ultimately, after he talks to all these people, figuring out what he wants to do. If he wants to go back to Green Bay, no issues. But if he doesn't, then he can create an issue. That's up to Aaron Rodgers. The ball is with him. And I think maybe that'll be influenced by what he hears. Now, I think people think, oh, yeah, well, everybody in Green Bay wants him back. Well, yeah, I think the coaching staff absolutely wants him back as long as he wants to be there. I'm not as convinced that everybody feels the same way about Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay as the coaches. And we'll see how those conversations play out this week.
So everyone leans forward in their chair as you say that.
Cryptic,
Damian Woody, we've not had you all week, D. Wood. What is your take on all this?
Boy, Shefty just threw a curveball, right? I mean, man, way to try to throw me off a little bit there.
D. Wood, can I just very briefly ask, is your house on fire? Can I just
no,
look over?
I knew you was going to ask that. No, it's just a vent. No, I am
okay.
safe.
Everything is okay. Oh, you're good. I didn't know if we were naming a new pope, or I don't know what's going on behind you there, but I'm just making sure everything is all right. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Listen, Greeny, I'm just having such a hard time wrapping my head around why would Aaron Rodgers even want to leave Green Bay? I understand he's on the clock with Jordan Love and being drafted in the first round. I get it. But may I remind everyone that Green Bay played back-to-back NFC championship games. This past year, they had home field advantage. He's going to be the MVP. The grass is not green on the other side all the time. And I know people will say, oh, well, look at Tom Brady. Okay, that's one situation. But for Aaron Rodgers, when I look at this Green Bay Packers team, that's a really good team, Greeny. It's a really good team.
I don't think
really good.
I don't think that it's about. I don't think that it's about him wanting to leave as much as I think it's about him realizing that his interests and the Packers' interests have started to diverge. All the decisions they made up into this were aligned with his decisions. There were similar things that he wanted to do. And last offseason made it clear to him that now their interests are diverging, and he's like, you know what? I'm not going to let you do this to me. I'm going to hold whatever power I have to make sure you make the decisions that maximize the end of my career, maximize my earning. We talked about it some yesterday, and I think Drew Brees was the example I used. He learned early in his career when he hurt his shoulder and San Diego Chargers gave up on him. He learned early in his career that sometimes the quarterback and the team's interests diverge. It took Aaron Rodgers a long time to learn that lesson, and he's learning it now, and he's using his power as quickly as he can to make sure that they don't send him out there on their own terms. He's going to go out on his terms.
There's another thing in this.
By the way, nobody said he wants to leave. I think the more apt and clear depiction of it is there's a lot going on in his mind, as we heard on Sunday and again with Pat McAfee. I think there's a lot of things a lot of information he's sifting through. Now,